My name is Hayat House, and I'll be your Master of Ceremony for the launch of Hayat House's Drug and Alcohol Service. I would like to welcome you all with a traditional Islamic greeting of Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. There comes a time when every community needs to stare fate squarely in the eyes, to reflect upon its course, to assess its hopes, and reevaluate its dreams. For the Muslim community, this moment came and passed a long time ago. The Muslim story in Australia is a phenomenal one. People of all colours and creeds, young and old, male and female, representing all corners of the world, have successfully carved their unique place in modern Australian life. And what a wonderful contribution that is and continues to be. But life in Australia has not come without its challenges. Whilst we rightfully hear of the great successes of the Muslim community, of the building of masjids, the establishment of Islamic schools, the proliferation of Islamic centres, of learning and so much more, these successes often shadow the dark crevices many in the community occupy on a daily basis. The emergence of second and third generation Muslims has forced the community to confront a stark reality, a reality in which many in the community, rather than taking full advantage of the opportunities afforded in this country, have been overwhelmed by the pressures of crime, of delinquency, of drugs, and of physical and sexual abuse. And these pressures do not discriminate. They target our boys as much as our girls, they affect the young as much as the old, and its curse touches both the religious and irreligious. The response by the community so far has been mostly one of denial or apprehension. Denial due to willful ignorance, and apprehension due to feeling overwhelmed at the magnitude of the problem. And the few souls that have bravely stood up to confront these collective scourges lament the lack of support or resources available in the community, often feeling as if they are forced to confront this struggle alone. The challenges faced by the Muslim community are not unique to the community, but the religious or cultural element represents an additional layer to what are otherwise universal problems. We could talk all morning about the problems faced by the Muslim community, problems that we may sometimes prefer to ignore or might find too confronting to address. But we have failed ourselves for far too long. So let's start by acknowledging some basic facts. There are Muslims who are addicted to drugs, both hard and soft. There are Muslims who are consumed by a life of crime, both big and small. There are Muslims who perpetrate or are victims of physical or sexual abuse. There are Muslim minors trafficked by pedophiles, sometimes their own parents. There are Muslim men with long beards who may stand in the front row at the masjids that oversee the supply of drugs, guns, and prostitution. There are Muslim women who wear the niqab or memorize most of the Quran that are debilitated by their $2,000 a week cocaine habit. There are Muslim teenagers selling themselves often to other Muslims to fund their ice addictions. And so the list could go on and on. I mention all this not for its shock value, as shocking as it is, but to demonstrate the period in which the community could remain in denial or feeling overwhelmed is long gone. Our community is rotting from within, and its victims are being punished twice, once with the crime itself and the second with the community's inability or refusal to assist in the recovery process. And here I use the word victim loosely, as to some extent we are all victims, even if we are the ones committing the crime. That is why Hayat House's drug and alcohol service is so vital for the community. It is long overdue, and it is a massive step in the right direction. A service reaching out to the most vulnerable, often the most neglected, because they are often the most difficult to treat. Hayat House's drug and alcohol service is not a panacea to all the ills of the community. It is but one small response to a much larger problem requiring the full commitment of all sections of the community. But it is an important first step, being a community-driven and a community-funded drug and alcohol service, offering a religiously and culturally sensitive response to a religiously and culturally diverse population. This is why I applaud the great efforts of all those tireless souls
who have made this initiative a reality. And it is why I implore all of us to lend our full support to this most vital service. Joining us this morning for this launch will be a panel of professionals in the community sector answering your curiosities. This morning we'll begin with a welcome speech by Hannah Dover. We will have a video presentation on a client's family journey through addiction and a video on drugs and alcohol, and a video presentation from a school project called Linked Up, working with young people who are disengaged from school. We will have morning tea, then we'll have a quick panel discussion. But our first speaker needs no introduction. She's a clinical and forensic psychologist, a tireless advocate for the community, a coffee connoisseur, and an avid Bulldog supporter. She needs no introductions, but just look at her face. It has its own publicist, Sister Hannah Dover.